If you want to see Bitcoin go to $10 million a coin, then it won't come from 125x or 20x offshore levered contracts and traders. It will come from insurance companies and macro hedge funds that have capital, $100 billion of capital, and they just allocate 5% of it to Bitcoin forever.
Unless you've been living under a rock, you would know that there's this thing called Bitcoin, and it has a couple of brothers and sisters like Ethereum, Cardano, and Dogecoin. All of them are assisting in providing different platforms to improve the global financial systems by making them more secure, faster, cheaper, and people from all over the world can make transactions using the same platforms. From what I'm learning from some great minds in the cryptocurrency space like Kevin O'Leary, Michael Saylor, and Anthony Pompliano, is that they think that Bitcoin will become the global reserve currency. Right now, the US dollar is the global reserve currency, and it has kept this status since 1944. The United States has been a stable and growing economy for many decades now, and people all over the world have felt comfortable trading goods and services with the US dollar. Making the change so Bitcoin can become the world's reserve currency will take some time because there's a whole lot of people that need to be convinced that this is the right thing to do. For something to change in your own household, it usually takes about 2 to 3 people to agree and the change is made. But for something to change either in a province or state or in a country, it takes a lot longer because there's a whole lot more people that need to be convinced and for the change to happen. And for something to change globally, like changing the world reserve currency, it can take years and years because, as you can see, it takes so many more people that have to agree. Bitcoin was initially introduced in 2009, and this is very important because that is when the US government started making some very bad decisions with their currency by starting to bail out some of the companies that actually caused the 2008 crisis. The US government stepped in and printed a whole bunch of money in order to help the economy recover, but in that same time, they helped a lot of fraudulent banks stay in business. Now, because they had to print so much money to keep the economy together, they created inflation, which means the prices of assets went up. The people who owned assets at the time benefited from this because the prices of those assets went up. But what about those people who didn't own any assets like stocks and real estate? These people tend to be the poor and the lower middle class because they only hold cash, and that is a depreciating asset during inflation. This means that they're able to buy less things with their cash, which makes them poor. As you can see, by printing money and creating inflation, the government is widening the wealth gap, and there will only be the rich and the poor without no middle class. Now, this is where Bitcoin comes into play, which is an appreciating asset, and throughout time it becomes harder and harder to mine, which makes it even more valuable. Now, that's unlike the US dollar, where the government is printing more and more money and depreciating its value. Bitcoin is the solution for human greed because we always tend to overspend, and our go-to way to fixing the economy is to print more money. Bitcoin is a decentralized asset, which means that it cannot be manipulated just like every other currency in the world, and we cannot continue to mine more Bitcoin other than what is set in the algorithm just because we got ourselves into trouble. Over the past few years, Bitcoin has seen tremendous volatility. It has seen a lot of growth and also a few 50% downturns. This is typical of any asset that is in its infancy stage because that is the time when the asset is hardest to value. Even stocks like Amazon, Apple, and Google have seen many 50% crashes when they were smaller companies, but it is extremely rare for these companies to have 50% crashes now because they are mature companies and people know their value a lot better. The typical Bitcoin investor right now is usually a person that is putting in a couple of thousands of dollars or maybe even a couple of million. How Bitcoin will become a mature asset is by having a lot of institutions buy into it. Right now, you have many institutions, especially institutions in the United States, starting to strategize how much Bitcoin they will hold on their balance sheets because they really see the value of what this can be. I follow Kevin O'Leary a lot when I try to find out what is being done for institutional investors to enter this space, because I feel like he's one of the most vocal leaders that is trying to open this door right now. He's trying to make Bitcoin regulated by the government and make Bitcoin welcoming to institutional investors.
It came up at the panel I was on today. It's the same story. In that audience, every time I come to these conferences and I do a panel, I look into the audience and I see the same institutions that I serve indexing with baseball hats on, and sunglasses. They don't want to be seen here. They don't want to be seen here, but they're really interested in this asset class. And in that room, I bet you 20% of the people today, I don't know, there are 3,000 people in there, are involved in financial services. You can tell who they are because they're wearing a hat and they got sunglasses on, because they're not ready to declare they're players yet, but they want to figure out what are the rules and when will the regulator approve it, because it will be allocated. And I think when you're talking about $500 billion sovereign fund and they allocate 1%, you're talking real money. Mm-hmm. And you as an owner of a coin are going to vastly be worth a lot more than before their participation. So we can have this debate about the community and moral obligations and centralization, decentralization. But if you were able to get the institutions just a 1% allocation, that's $1 trillion worth of buying. So now you're talking about $1 million Bitcoin. That's why I'm in the game. And so I'm happy to have this dialogue saying, everybody wake up and understand, smell the fucking roses. It's there. The opportunity's there. You got to get on the bandwagon to solve this problem for it.
What Kevin O'Leary is doing right now is tremendous, and he should be praised for this, for being on our side and the doors he's opening, because once institutional investors come into this space, you should see Bitcoin going to 500,000 to 1 million and possibly even 10 million. This will happen because these institutional investors will not just invest a couple of thousands of dollars or even a couple of million. They will allocate possibly 1 to 5% of a multi-billion dollar portfolio, and you should see many billions of dollars entering the Bitcoin market. This would increase the price of Bitcoin tremendously, and Bitcoin will only reach its maturity stage and become more stable as more and more institutional buyers enter. This is the time where prices will not fluctuate as much, because a couple of millions of dollars entering and exiting the market will not matter as much when there is billions and trillions of dollars still in the market. I believe we're on the verge of many institutional buyers starting to strategize what portion of their balance sheets they will allocate towards Bitcoin. We are looking to get Bitcoin regulated, and when this happens, the people who haven't bought will kick themselves because the price of Bitcoin will skyrocket faster than the meme stocks. That is it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something about Bitcoin and what it would possibly take for Bitcoin to reach $10 million per coin. The entire world is going digital, and he who does not keep up with the times will end up worse off. If you did enjoy the video, please click the like and subscribe for more videos just like this, and I truly appreciate it. This is Investing with Envy, and I will see you on the next video.